Have you ever tried to explain yourself and felt the words just fall apart the moment they left your mouth? You spoke carefully, you chose every word, you were honest, and still, they didn't understand. Or maybe they didn't want to. You explained once, then twice, then again, and every time you tried harder, the gap between you and them grew wider. This is the story of a man who spent years explaining himself to the world, until one silent morning he stopped and everything changed. In a small town tucked between rolling green hills and winding rivers, there lived a man named Daniel. Daniel was a carpenter, not famous, not wealthy, but his hands built things that lasted. Tables that held families together, chairs that carried old men through their final years, shelves that held the books of children who would one day change the world. Daniel was quiet by nature. He believed in his work. He believed in honesty. And most of all, he believed that if you were good, the world would see it. He was wrong. In the same town lived a merchant named Mr. Harlow, sharp-eyed, loud-voiced, always sure of himself. One day, Harlow began to spread a rumor through the marketplace. "Daniel uses cheap wood," he would say with a confident smile. "That's why his prices are low. He's cheating you." Daniel heard it, and so he explained. He brought people to his workshop. He showed them the wood, ash, oak, solid and honest. He explained his costs. He explained his process. He explained himself again and again and again. But something strange happened. The more he explained, the guiltier he looked. "Why does he keep defending himself?" people whispered. "Honest men don't explain this much." Daniel went home that night and sat in the dark. His hands, rough from years of honest work, rested in his lap. And for the first time in his life, he felt completely invisible. A week later, an old traveler passed through the town. White beard, quiet eyes, the kind of man who seemed to carry peace wherever he walked. He sat near Daniel's workshop, drinking tea in the afternoon sun. Daniel, tired and hollow, sat beside him. "They don't believe me," Daniel said quietly, "no matter what I say." The old man looked at him for a long moment. Then he asked, "Tell me, if a man is convinced the river flows uphill, would your words change its direction?" Daniel frowned. "No, of course not." The traveler nodded slowly. "Then," he said softly, "why do you keep trying to move the river with just your breath?" Daniel stared at the ground. The traveler continued, gently, like a man who had learned this lesson the hard way. "Silence is not defeat, my friend. It is a decision to stop feeding what doesn't deserve your energy, to stop shrinking yourself to fit inside someone else's misunderstanding." He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Let your work speak. Let your life answer. And let those who are meant to see, see." From that day, Daniel changed. When Harlow mocked him in the market, Daniel simply nodded and walked on. When neighbors questioned his prices, he smiled and offered them his finest work. No anger, no defense, no wasted breath. People noticed, not the silence, but what the silence carried. A dignity, a calm, a man completely at peace with who he was. And slowly, something shifted. Families from nearby villages came asking for his furniture. A merchant from the city commissioned an entire dining set. A school ordered 20 chairs, the kind Daniel had always known to make. His work spoke, loudly, clearly, without a single word. And Harlow? One cold winter, his fireplace cracked and his old table collapsed. He came to Daniel's workshop with his hat in his hand. Daniel looked at him for a moment. Then, quietly, he got to work. No victory, no "I told you so," just the sound of honest hands doing honest work. Here is what Daniel learned and what I want you to carry with you today. Not everyone who questions you deserves an answer. Not every rumor deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding needs your correction. Because here is the truth that took him years to find. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you stop giving everyone power over your peace. Silence, real silence, is not emptiness. It is a full room. A room where your dignity lives, where your strength rests, where you are no longer begging to be understood by people who never intended to understand you. The right people will see you, not because you convinced them, but because your life, your work, your presence left no room for doubt. So today, just for today, let one thing go unexplained. Let one person be wrong about you, and notice how much lighter you feel. If this story touched something inside you, it's because you've lived some version of it. There are more stories like this waiting for you here. Stories about courage, about peace, about becoming the person you were meant to be. Subscribe to this channel and join a community of people who choose growth over noise and silence over approval. Until next time, stay honest, stay still, and trust what your life is building.